Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Clover Health. Is it more than just a meme stock? Hopefully by the end of this video you will have the answer and my opinion on that. Stay tuned. Now let's just set up the timeline here. Last fall, Chamath Palihapitiya, in addition to the folks at Clover Health, had a press conference where they announced a merger, a SPAC merger. That merger closed in January and the stock started trading as CLOV for Clover Health in January of 2021. In February of 2021, Hindenburg came out with a pretty vicious short seller report with a whole slew of accusations against Clover. Clover eventually answered all of those, and I have two videos which discuss those, so I won't go over all of those. Then in March, a Reddit user, Rerun984, posted a very insightful presentation about how Clover Health could become a short squeeze. We're going to look at some of that. First of all, and I think this is important, the user stated that they are long on Clover. So they weren't just in this just to make a few bucks off of a short squeeze. This is a company that they believe in and have invested in. They noted a steady increase in the short interest of Clover Health, and we can see some of those numbers here going from January 15th to February 12th, more than doubling the percent short of free float. They also noted a put-to-call ratio increase up to 0.77. Put-to-call ratio is just that. It tells the number of puts, people who are selling short, to the number of calls, people who think that the price will be going up. And as that number gets closer to 1, it tells us that the short interest is increasing. Therefore, they concluded at the end of their presentation that there was an inexpensive cost of entry with a huge total addressable market, and said look at the year-over-year growth and upcoming health catalysts. Now, this was before Clover announced their first quarter earnings result, which they decreased their guidance for the year because they have had a less than expected enrollment in 2 of their programs. Nevertheless, they still said burn the shorts. We saw a little mini short squeeze happen, end of April and early May, when the price went from about $6 up to about $10.50. Then the stock price has been slowly coming down. It got down to around $6 and some change, and that suddenly changed last week when the price shot as high as about $28 per share. Then the price rapidly came back down and has been hovering in the $14 to $15 range for the past few days since June 11th, June 10th. Is there still potential for a short squeeze? Well, let's look at some of the numbers. All right, this comes from the Fintel website, and it gives us some insight as to whether shorting of the stock is still going on. All right, this graph here in the table gives us insight into the number of shares being shorted. If we go back to the 28th of May, it was a little more than 4 million. At its peak there, on the 8th of June, we see that the short volume was 196 million, and then that has since come back down to just a little less than 34 million. But let's get down here to at least institutional put-call ratios. Of course, institutions trade a lot of shares. On June 1st, the put-call ratio was 0.42. Remember that as this goes up, that tells us that more people are shorting the stock, which means more people are bearish. So there at the height of it, June 8th, the put-call ratio was 0.53. And if we look several days later, it's still at 0.53. So the put-call ratio really hasn't changed, even though the stock price has come down. That tells us that people are still shorting this stock. Not as much as the 0.77 that we saw back when the Reddit user put out their thesis. So to answer one of the questions that I posed, is there still room for a short squeeze in Clover Health? I think the answer is yes. Now let's answer the second question, is it more than just a short squeeze? I also think the answer to this is yes. In fact, I've already produced 8 videos about Clover Health, many of which go over many of the details of Clover Health. So we're just going to hit some of the highlights with this. And if you want more information, I would encourage you to go back to my first presentation on Clover Health back in January of this year, and then watch the subsequent presentations. The big thing to know is that Clover Health is a Medicare Advantage plan. Medicare Advantage has some advantages over routine regular medical care. And Clover Health then enrolls patients into their program where they control some of the expenses that occur for these patients and make contracts with physicians. This is the largest undisrupted healthcare market, and we see here that it's $270 billion in 2019, but by 2025, the Medicare Advantage market is expected to be $590 billion. What's the second thing to know about Clover Health? Well, they use the Clover Assistant, which is their technology, their platform to be able to try to drive down costs. This is a program that a physician uses in the office when they're seeing a Clover Health patient, and the computer then will aggregate data for the physician and hopefully help to provide better care for the patient, which in turn can lower costs. The next thing to know is that consumers or patients are choosing Clover Healthcare. From 2018 to 2020, it was in the top 3 market share in all of its established markets. It's only in a small percentage of counties within the United States. This is a very small company, comparatively speaking, compared to the total number of patients who are available. And this bar chart here just shows how their market share has been increasing. As we look from 2014 to 2020, Clover is this dark green line, and you can see that dark green line just coming up as it eats into the market share that other companies were occupying. Lastly, they also have a direct contracting platform that just began in April of this year. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because I think I've covered this adequately in other videos. But essentially, this is one more way that Clover can acquire patients and thus make revenue. Lastly, one more big thing to know about Clover Health and Medicare is that there are 10,000 patients a day who join the Medicare ranks in the United States, 10,000 patients a day. Clover Health is expanding into more counties in 2021, and they are going to be able to get a significant portion of those 10,000 patients a day as they continue to expand out into more and more counties within the United States. Now, they did have some setbacks recently that I covered in the conference call that they did in May of this year. In particular, COVID had disruptions upon their business like it did upon so many other businesses. Now that the vaccine is around, though, I think we'll begin to see that Clover Health starts to see improvements in their bottom line as COVID-related disease decreases for their healthcare population. All right, that's it for today. Clover Health. 2 questions. Is there still room for a short squeeze? I think the answer is yes. Second question, is Clover Health more than just a meme stock, more than just a short squeeze? I think the answer is yes. Hopefully I've demonstrated that for you. If you enjoyed this presentation, please give us a thumbs up. That's really important to the YouTube algorithm, and we would love to have you as a subscriber. Please feel free to leave some comments on what your thoughts are about Clover Health. Is it more than just a meme stock, and is there still room for a short squeeze? Until next time, enjoy your investing.